It was in front of each and every assembly of our church, which is about 8-9 assemblies. It was in front of my parents. It was in front of all the leaders of the church, everybody. It was in front of my boyfriend, whom I... Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're returning, and welcome if it's your first time here. Remember to leave a like, comment and subscribe. Today is a beautiful day, just like every day, but today is actually better than yesterday. I'm going to tell you a story about my life, what happened to me. Most of you know that I love talking about personal development. I love talking about relationships. And I'm a Christian. But what most of you don't know is that I'm also a pastor's child, and you need to know this for you to understand the background of my story. So I'm a pastor's child. My parents are founders and pastors of the church, of my church. And so being a pastor's child, guys, it's not the easiest thing in the world. It is hard. Okay, I'm not going to say it is hard because now I can handle it. Now I learned to handle it, but it's not the easiest thing in the world. So, when I was 22 years old, I was in a relationship with a certain guy. We're just a few months into the relationship with a certain guy. He was coming to my church. He wasn't fully coming to our church, but he was coming to our church. And so I decided to invite him to a conference because we normally had conferences every April, August, and December school holidays. So we were having a conference at that point, and I just wanted him to attend, and he was interested. He wanted to attend. So before we went for the conference, the week before, a certain guy who is, I don't know if he was a pastor, an apostle, a prophet, but he came to our place, to my house, and he gave a prophecy. No, it wasn't really a direct prophecy, that's not said, but that's where it started. I'm not sure because this guy was a friend of a family friend. And so someone who was close to me was giving them information about what I was doing, and they thought I was sleeping around, and I wasn't doing that. And so the guy came, and then we had an evening prayer session. Everything was great, and then he just said, I want you to come, kneel down. And then I knelt down. And then he said, he was just like, some sins are really terrible, are bad for you, and so I'm not going to say things in front of your parents, but I'm sure you understand what I'm saying, so stop it. That's what he said. I was angry. It got me really angry. Actually annoyed. I wasn't really angry with that. I was just annoyed that you come to a house and you start saying this, and which other sin would you talk about like that in front of the people, of all those people? So anyway, I didn't take it to the heart. I just left it. I was like, okay, it's fine. Next week we went to the conference, and the same guy was invited to the conference. It was a youth conference, and we were really happy. I love serving. I've always been committed to my Christian work. I've always been really committed. I've always loved serving and doing things for the Lord, being happy in church, singing, preaching, doing everything that I can, leading the children's ministry, and all the great things that I can do in church, and I still would do them. And I still do them at this point. So we went for the conference. My boyfriend at that point agreed for us to go to the conference, and then we went to the conference. We were having a good time, and then the guy came on Saturday because he was invited to preach. He wasn't necessarily from my church, but he was invited to preach. So he preached, had a good preaching. I had sung a song, and everything was going great. Then prophecy time. He started prophesying people and certain things, and some people were saying, yeah, that is it, and some people were really happy about the prophecies that they were being given. And then he called me. He just said, who was this lady? I want the lady who was sitting here to come here. And he seemed really angry, he seemed really angry in the spirit about me and what I was doing. So he came, he called me, and I went in front, and then he told everyone to keep quiet, gave me a mic. I was given a mic, and he asked me to read 1 Corinthians chapter 6 verse 18. I think that is the scripture, which says, flee from fornication. um the sin that you make, every other sin that you make is outside the body, but when you commit fornication, when you do fornication, you are sinning against your own body or your own body, something like that. That's what the scripture says. And then he said this scripture is applying to you and some other youths in the congregation who are doing what you're doing. So stop what you're doing, guys. It was in front of each and every assembly of our church, which is about 8-9 assemblies. It was in front of my parents. It was in front of all the leaders of the church, everybody. It was in front of my boyfriend, whom I had told that we're not going to have sex before marriage. I was crushed. I didn't want to create drama. I didn't want to go and say, no, I don't know what you're saying. I wanted to, but I don't know. I didn't want to do that because I'm not a drama person. So I decided to let him win. I sat down, but I couldn't hold myself. So I decided to go out and just get some air. I remember I cried. I cried so hard. I was thinking, my parents are here. And if you grew up in an African home, you understand that you can't, it's unacceptable to just have an premarital sex. You can't do it. It's not acceptable. Number two, being a pastor's child, being the founder's child, and everyone in church is there hearing that this is what I was doing. It was hard. It was the hardest thing in the world. It was hard. So I went out, I cried. I remember my sister came and my other brother came, and then we just started talking. We started talking, and then I told them this is not an accurate, this is a false prophecy. I'm not doing this, this is wrong. And then they said, no, let's go and see the guy. After the service we went and saw the guy, and then I told them, yes, you gave this prophecy, but, and I didn't want to say it in front of everyone, but it wasn't accurate. I don't know what you were thinking about me. I don't know what you thought when you saw me. And you also said something the last time you came to our place in front of my parents. And no, this was wrong. This was a false prophecy. So he just said stuff, and but all he was saying is, you'll see at the end that this is it. You see the results, but this was the prophecy that I made. It was the worst, and the conference wasn't ending that day, guys. I had to go back the next day and sing in church. The next evening, the next day, to sing at church. And for me not to, it was also going to be worse. And imagine being at a conference where everyone is talking about you. Everyone is talking about you, and you are the founder's child. You are the pastor's child. Everyone is talking about you. It was hard. It was terrible. It was terrible. I remember I had to go and still sing as if everything was okay, but it wasn't. It was terrible. So after the conference, we went back home, and my parents never said anything at that conference. After the conference, we went back home, and then my dad called me. My mom was there as well, and then he just said, we're not going to take every word that everyone is going to say, but what we're going to say is just do your things properly, do your things right. That's what he said. They weren't like, no, you're doing this. No, they're really cool. They're like, no, we're not going to just listen to everything that everyone is going to say. But anyway, it's okay. Just do your things properly. And then a few months after, things started getting sour between me and my parents, because they started thinking a little bit that I was doing something. Imagine telling them I'm going somewhere, and then you come back around 7 p.m. or around 6 p.m. They started thinking something is up. You tell them I'm going there, they're thinking probably you're going to have sex with a guy or something like that. So it strained our relationship so much. It strained it so much to the point where I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle it. It started straining our relationship so much, I couldn't handle it. And I still needed to be in the same church. I still needed to sing to the same people, get to our assembly, sing as if nothing happened. Nothing was happening. It was terrible. So when I started having those strains, I don't think they was wrong. I think they were just being protective because they are my parents. But I'm thinking it was triggered by what happened at that conference. And so that was it. And then when I couldn't handle it anymore, I decided to go to my uncle's place to stay there for a while. I told my uncle, this is what is going on. Can I come and stay there? And then he said, it's okay, you can come. And then I went to stay there with my uncle and my aunt, and I had some time to breathe. It was a great time there. And to be honest, I didn't want to come back to the same church and still sing and still be in the same church where people are thinking all of these things about you, and you're sitting in front of them and they're thinking, after you coming from having sex with a guy, or um, no, it was terrible. It was terrible, and people were saying a lot. People at my local assembly were saying a lot about me. I couldn't handle it anymore. My parents also, I couldn't handle it anymore. So I decided to go. I had a good time at my uncle's and auntie's place, and I wasn't coming to. I had to go there so that I could attend their church and not ours. I went there, stayed there for about 3 months, but then I'm just not telling you this story. I'm telling you to encourage you to hold on to your faith no matter what happens. Some people stop going to church because a leader, a deacon, an elder said this about them, a pastor said this about them, and they stop serving in church, they stop going to church, they stop doing the good things that they were doing, they stop loving those people or greeting anyone because it's just they're facing such kind of a challenge in church. And I want to tell you, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. I tried to really run away and hide, but still I prayed, and of course I got some time to breathe. I prayed, and I decided to just be strong, go back to church, and still do things that I needed to do. Still being the same person that I needed to be. Still serve God how I needed to serve Him. Still do the right thing in church. And so I'm just telling you and encouraging you, don't get discouraged. A lot of things happens in churches, and that was like my worst point in church. A lot of things happens in churches, and you cannot follow what people, because people will just say things, people will just talk about you, but you cannot stop going to church or doing the right things because this happened in church, because it's not worth it. What matters is your soul and you growing and you being a great person, serving and doing what you love to do in church. And so this is my story. I just shared to encourage you to be strong. No matter what you face, no matter what people say, be strong, stay strong, and still do what you need to do because no one should stop you. Up to this point, some people thought that prophecy was true, but it doesn't matter to me anymore because I know it wasn't. And so that's what I wanted to share. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember to stay beautiful, stay positive, stay productive, and stay happy. Bye.